Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Kaninika Paul and today I am here to deliver a lecture on one of the topics in the subject food quality assurance and safety. So the topic which we will be covering today is food regulatory setup of practices, and under this topic we will cover good manufacturing practices, good laboratory practices, good agricultural practices and good hygiene practices. So first start with good manufacturing practices. So from the name itself it is clear that if we want to pursue or if we want to do good manufacturing practices in food industry, it is to do with the food processing. So from the name itself it is clear it has to do with the processing and manufacturing. So if we go by the definition, it says that good manufacturing practices or GMP refers to the practices in which manufacturers, processors and packagers should take as proactive steps to ensure that their products are safe, pure and effective. That means during the production of any product in a food industry, you should do these practices which are preventive in nature, that means which are proactive in nature, which will ultimately make the final food product safe for consumption, having the good quality as well as the effectiveness for which the product is meant for. So these good manufacturing practices actually ensure safety as well as quality in the food product. So if we move further on, there are 5 basic components of good manufacturing practices which we also call as 5 P's. So what are these 5 P's? Let's see. These 5 P's are also the 5 main components of GMP. Like to start with, it starts with the product, which is the first P. The second P is the process. The third P is the premises. And the fourth P is the people, and the last P is the procedure. So what do you mean by the product? When we manufacture some product in the food industry, let's say potato chips. So we start with the raw material potatoes. So to have good manufacturing practices in place, you must ensure the quality of the product, that is a raw material, as well as the final product, that is the potato in our case, since we are making potato chips, and the final product is potato, the processed potato chips. Both should be of good quality. That is the first P. Second, coming to the process, the second P. So the processes, during the process what will happen, we will make potato chips from the raw material potato, right? So what we will do, now we have to take about the technicalities, the technical flow sheet, that is about the process. So we will start with receiving of raw material, we will process to various steps, we must take care of the temperature, time because it's a frying conditions, the final packaging, all the technical flow should be taken care of in the second P, that is processes. In the third P, it is about premises, that means the area where you are having the manufacturing part going on. Because we are dealing with food, so safety is of primary concern. So the area we are selecting for our food industry should be very appropriate, like the plant layout, the land, the surrounding should be taken care of. That is the premises or the infrastructure, the facility of the industry. The fourth P is the people, that means the manpower, whoever is there involved during the manufacturing processes, all the employees, all the persons involved in the manufacturing process. And the last P is the procedure, which takes care of the whole process, taking care or taking part in the industry while manufacturing your product, say potato chips. So again, recapitulating the 5 P's: product, it can be raw material, it can be the final product. Second is the process, which is very technical in nature, the technical flow for producing or processing or preserving a particular food product. The third is premises, the area, the infrastructure. The fourth is people, that is the manpower involved. And the last P is the procedures, that means whole process. Okay. Now moving on, to the principles of good manufacturing practices. So if you want to have good manufacturing practice in your food industry, you must follow certain principle. And if you follow these principles, automatically you will be following the good manufacturing practices in the food industry. So to start with the first principle, it says about design and construct the facilities and equipment in a step-by-step written procedures. That means it is about writing or giving instruction in written format what to do, how to do, when to do, like this. So all operating procedures and work instructions should be written down and made available to all the employees for better understanding of the facility working procedures. So we should have standard operating procedures or SOPs, which are established methods that are to be followed in a routine manner for the performance of the designated operation of the food production. This is about principle 1 where you are writing everything. The second principle is now following whatever you have written. So follow the procedures. Whatever SOPs have been made, now you have to execute, you have to follow the instructions. So in the food industry, it is critical that good procedures are in place to ensure a controlled and consistent performance, very important. And the written procedures, whatever you are writing, should be very concise and precise, not very elaborative, and so that it becomes easy to follow and understand. While following the SOP or the written procedures, it is important to mark no shortcuts, because if we are taking shortcuts, we are compromising with the food safety and quality. Because if we are taking shortcuts, it might lead to deviation from the procedure, which may lead to hazards. Now going to the third principle, here you have to document your work. You have done your work, but you have to now document everything, because that's the only evidence that you have done everything correctly. So prompt and accurate documentation of work provides official information and serves as a record, helping in compliance as well as traceability. In case of any error, these records can serve as a basis of investigation. For example, the documentation can be in form of equipment manual, it can be in form of a logbook, it can be in form of any kind of records, which will ultimately, it will serve two purposes. One is it is a proof that you have done the work, and the second one is it will help in like taking care of if there is any mistake, or it will be very helpful in case of traceability. During auditing also this documentation actually work. In the fourth principle, validation of your work is important. Like you are doing it, you are documenting it, but what is the surety that you are doing it correctly? There should be some validation, right? So establishing documentary evidence that the procedure, process, or whatever activity you are doing and the production maintains a desired level of compliance at all stages. So it is kind of a checking that you are doing it correctly. So correctly following the written procedures are necessary, and this should be done in the according to principle 4, that is validation of your work. In the next principle, it is about integration of productivity, quality and safety into the facilities and equipment, which means you must have the infrastructure and the facilities in industries in such a manner that ultimately whatever food you are producing, it should have high yield, it should have good quality as per consumer demand, as well as safety. So your facility should be such that you ultimately have good production in terms of yield, good quality in terms of consumer acceptance, and safety in terms of hazard-free food. So during construction of your company facility and equipment, it is important to integrate productivity, quality and employee safety. Employee safety is also important because without manpower, you cannot run your industry. Designing and assigning location of equipment, where should be which should be the appropriate place for your equipment and instrument, should suit its intended use. Product quality is highly impacted, especially food product is highly affected by factors like air, water, light, ventilation, temperature, like this. So selecting and keeping in mind all the factors, your infrastructure and facility should be built in such manner according to the principle 5 of good manufacturing practice. The next principle 6 is maintaining the facilities and equipment. You have built, you have started your own company and you have all the required infrastructure and everything, but you need to maintain that always, right, to produce and to give consistently good quality of food product. So the sixth principle tells that you should maintain. Regular maintenance should be there of your facilities and equipment. So proper maintenance of equipment and facility with valid documentation backing the details for maintenance minimizes any safety concern and avoid potential issues relating to contamination and quality control. Proper maintenance schedule should be there which actually prevent equipment breakdown, reduces risk of product contamination and maintain the validated state of the facility or equipment. So maintenance of facilities, that was the principle 6. In principle 7, we need to define, develop and demonstrate job competency. This is about the fourth P we have discussed in the 5 P's of GMP, about the people, the manpower. Now whoever is working should be properly trained and should be aware of his or her role in the industry. If you are working in production, you should be aware that what is your role during production of the product. If you are working in packaging area, you should be aware that what is your role. You should be technically sound to know about the packaging material, which packaging material is suitable for the product you are manufacturing. If you are manufacturing potato chips, the packaging material will be different if you are manufacturing pasteurized milk. So you should be very well aware of your role, as well as you should be technically sound, and for the technical knowledge training is very important. So each employee should be provided with training whose activities could affect the product quality, because your inputs are important, because you are working in the industry in a very active manner. So training should be inclusive of basic training on theory and practice of GMP. So all the employees involved in the manufacturing process should be well aware of all the good manufacturing practices, including the principles we are discussing right now. So this is about a principle 7 about the manpower, where you need to define, develop and demonstrate job competency of the employees. The next principle, which is principle 8, is make cleanliness a daily habit. That means hygiene. We are dealing with food, so hygiene is very, very, very important. So you should be very cautious about maintaining hygiene in the industry. So this principle outlines the importance of ensuring a product to be protected from contamination by practicing good hygiene. All cleaning and sanitization procedures should be diligently followed. And here we are talking about hygiene does not mean only hygiene of the employees or personal hygiene or hygiene of the human being. We must maintain the hygiene and cleanliness of the surrounding also, of the area, of the floor, of the ceiling, of the wall, of the equipments, of the utensils. Whatever is coming in direct contact with the food should be actually hygienic in nature. Ninth principle is build quality into the product. So not only GMP's focus about the safety or making a product hazard free, it also focuses on building quality in the product. That means you must produce your product by maintaining all the good manufacturing practices as per consumer's demand. Whatever consumer is demanding, you have to satisfy the consumer. So building quality is also one of the main aspects in good manufacturing practice. So every step in the product's life cycle requires effective controls to ensure quality of the product, which can be achieved by controlling components, the manufacturing process, packaging, labeling, holding, distribution, like right from reception of the raw material till you are dispatching your product. So everything is important to have a good quality product. And the last principle is conduct compliance and performance audit. So only way to determine how well the GMP is being implemented is to conduct planned and periodic audits, because during audit only you are being examined that whether you are performing everything in a good manner or not, and if you are lacking something, that review is also being given in the audit. So audit is always a chance where you can always improvise yourself. So audit is a must. So you must have a planned and periodic audit, and the audit must be conducted to assess whether the facility is following GMP. So audits can be internally held to ensure GMP compliance in in-house audits, or external audits can be conducted by external bodies such as FDA or other certification bodies. So while conducting audit, it should be in-house audit or internal audit, which is a mandate, and also external audit by external bodies, especially in case of certification. So these are the total 10 principles of GMP, and just to recapitulate, you need to start with SOPs, you need to write everything down. Then after writing everything down, you should follow, and following means executing whatever is written. Then you need to document your work, you need to maintain records, you need to validation of whatever you are doing is correct or not. Then you must have a proper infrastructure which will ultimately give good yield, good quality and safe food product. You must maintain the facilities and equipment so that there is no breakdown or no sudden loss during the production. Then the manpower should be properly skilled, trained, and should be well aware of their roles in the industry. Hygiene should be maintained, and you must take care of the quality also, not only safety. And lastly, the audit performance. This is all about your 10 principles of good manufacturing practices. The next is why GMP is important, like why you should have good manufacturing practices in your industry. Firstly, these are preventive in nature. These are not corrective, like if something has gone wrong, then you are taking step. No, you are actually taking step beforehand so that you can prevent something from going wrong. So it is preventive and proactive, which actually prevents huge loss of your product. It saves your time, money, energy, everything. And secondly, it focuses on safety of the food, which is very important because we are actually directly consuming food. So health of the consumer is important. So GMPs are focused on the safety concern of the food. So to have good manufacturing practices in industry, suitable facilities and qualified person, especially in the management, is important. So quality management should be in place. And if you are maintaining good manufacturing practices, you are actually able to avoid any kind of customer complaint, and you can actually avoid the recall, because recall procedure is huge and it actually incurs lots of money and huge losses of the food product. So you can avoid the food recall. And also you should have good personnel or employees trained with good job competency, and good manufacturing practices actually is able or will make you able to manage the risks associated in the food industry. Okay. So the next areas covered, basically the areas covered in good manufacturing practices in food industries are personnel, plant and grounds, sanitary operation facilities, equipment and utensils, basic processing controls, and warehouse distribution. So it is covering every component in the industry, right from the manpower, plant and grounds being the premises, the sanitary operations means the hygiene you have to maintain, the equipment and utensils because they are in directly contact with the food. Basic processing controls the technical part because you are actually giving good quality and safe food product. And lastly, the storage and the logistics part. This is a sample of how one document in GMP might look like one SOP. And this is for personnel. So if you want to maintain personal hygiene, some instructions are given, and see the instructions are not very elaborative and very precise. And if you notice, there is one date and approved section. That means you need to update your SOPs on a regular basis, and it should be approved by the higher management as well. So that's all for today's lecture. We'll continue with this part in the next lecture. Thank you.